Hi, Unlimited Minds. I am back again, and I am absolutely thrilled because I have a good friend here with me today. Her name is Dr. AYESHA MCARTHUR, and her story is a story that I think all women will definitely relate to. And I think men can also relate to because we all go through these things in life, and it's what we do with them, how we process those things that happen in our lives that make a difference. I'm not going to tell you the story. I'm going to let AYESHA do that. So AYESHA, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank
I,
you. Thank you.
I, I, I hope that you'll maintain the excitement while you tell that story.
Yes, yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
my goodness. AYESHA, please tell us how you got started on this whole journey of personal development and mental health.
Yeah, that is perfect because that's exactly what the last 11 years has been for me. It's been a journey in discovering, I believe, who I was really meant to be versus who I was trying to be and how I was allowing others and society and expectations dictate to me who I
Mm.
was supposed to be.
Beautifully said.
So,
We do that. So many of us, we try to
yeah.
fit into this image, and and when we can't fit in exactly the way we imagined it, it just goes haywire.
And I think for me, it went haywire to like the 11 millionth power, but it was exactly the way things had to happen in order for me to rediscover myself. I think in a way, almost find myself at almost 40 years old. I definitely wouldn't have said that at the time, but coming out on the other side
Yes.
of it, I was like, yeah, you lost yourself for a long time.
Yes.
And I think that's something that in some time or another, all of us will go through.
Yes.
And then it's that rediscovery period is where you really start to find your voice again because we do lose it, I feel, after a while,
It's
just with
almost a
everything you've
shift
experienced.
in what's important to us shifts, right? Like,
Absolutely.
yes. So start at the
Absolutely.
beginning and tell us
Yeah.
the story.
And I was going to say that's actually where I began because it was certainly for me a shift. I'll just admit it, I was a control freak. I was that type A personality who was extremely driven that if I had a goal, I was never in a competition with anyone else. I was in fierce competition with myself. I had to be the
Hmm.
best me I could possibly be, not better than anyone else, just the best me. And I really lived my entire life that way. And I would say, probably up until the point that I went through that shift, I also started to live my life for other people. I was a person who definitely, I felt very hard and I held on to the past a lot. So I would create these stories for myself about who I was and about how people perceived me. Um, and so that led me to, I would say 2007 ish. Um, I was I was really focused on finishing my dissertation for my doctorate. That's just where I was. Like this has to happen at this time and in this way. And when it didn't, I was thrown for a bit of a loop. But within that loop, I fell in love with my best friend. So I quickly was like, oh my goodness, maybe this is why it didn't have to happen. And after a while, I was kind of okay with it because who has the opportunity to fall in love with your best friend? My best friend was a man, and we had been platonic friends for 13 years. Even when we didn't live in the same state anymore, we talked a couple of times a week. People thought we were dating because of how close we were and how connected we were. And he was just like my protector, my confidant, my soft place to land. And no matter what I did, he always had my back. So I thought, finally, everything is falling into place. This is what that happily ever after is supposed to look like. But I have to be honest with you, I was a woman who never believed in happily ever after. I wasn't, as a young girl, I didn't dream about getting married and having the wedding and being a mom. I didn't dream about any of those things. So I thought, wow, this is really happening for me. I can't believe it. And it wasn't until I got through that journey that I started to say, what does that say about you and how you perceived yourself? Because in one aspect of your life, people see you as very confident, very self-assured, very even killed. But on another side, you're second guessing what you actually deserve.
Mm.
So, but that's
Mm.
just where I was. Um, and I felt like we had this whirlwind romance where one day things just clicked and we're dating, and it moves very quickly because we've known each
You
other
knew
for
each other
so
already.
long.
Exactly.
Yeah, we knew the ins and outs, and it was very different than any other relationship I had been in. We literally sat down and talked about, do we want to do this? Because there's no going back. Like, we can't go back to just being friends if we decide that we want to pursue a relationship, and what should this look like. And I'm definitely a person of faith, and it was important for me to finally make sure that I prioritize God being the center of this union,
Hmm.
because I hadn't done that before. And he felt the same. So I thought, oh my God, this is great. But in the back of my mind, I was like, wait, is this really happening? And it wasn't, is this really happening? It was, is this really happening for me? Like, I
Mm.
can't believe this is happening for me. And that has always kind of been there for me, that wondering of what can happen for me. No matter how hard I work, no matter how much I strive to be the best me, there was always something there that, can this really happen for me? And so we did. We dated for 3 years, I believe it was, got engaged. He proposed on top of, at the highest peak on the Appalachian Mountains in Asheville, North Carolina. It was beautiful. It was fall, the foliage. I remember the
Oh,
foliage just
beautiful
like,
colors. Yes.
yes, like the burgundies, the oranges, and all the leaves on the ground. And he hugged me, and I turned around, like, oh my God, he's on his knee. Oh my God, he's asking to marry me. Um, and I couldn't have pictured it happening more perfectly. And I was over the moon with excitement, because I was still saying, like, is this possible that can really happen for me? And we planned our wedding. We had a beautiful outdoor ceremony. We personalized everything. Like, everything about our love and our relationship was intentional. Like, we're in this together.
Oh, that sounds
And
so beautiful. It's like a fairy tale.
that
That
is exactly how
it's
I
just
felt.
unfolding so beautiful. And I can just, as you're talking, I'm imagining the colors and, the leaves on the ground. And yeah, how
That's
lovely
how
is
it
that?
felt. We moved to Asheville, North Carolina. Neither of us was from North Carolina. We didn't have any family members there. We loved the town. So
Yes.
we really did set our own life together, and it was just us in this beautiful, picturesque place. And we're living, for us, like, this beautiful, picturesque life. That, how amazing is it that I get to spend every day with my best friend, who I also love. Like I've never felt a love so pure and so sacred as that. Um, so we're married, and as intentional as we were about even beginning a relationship and heading into marriage, we did the same with having children. We're very intentional about, let's spend a year just being married before we decide to take that plunge. We were both nearing 40 years old. So for some people, like, well, what are you waiting for?
Right.
But we really wanted that time just as husband and wife, just to build, like, that part of
Sure.
our lives
Yeah.
together. But for me, not for him, but for me, it was, I want to be the perfect wife now. I want to be the
Mm.
perfect mom now. Like, now everything has to be perfect, because I have this perfect fairy tale life. And it was a lot of pressure on me,
That
because,
you put on yourself.
yeah, no one did that. Like, he never, ever would have done that to me, or even had that expectation. Like I said, we're living in a place where we don't know anyone else. So we're
Right.
building our own network of
Yeah.
friends and community. We're far away from our family. I was an elementary school principal, my first principal position, and that whole drive to be the best. So I'm working a lot because I have to be the best, but I now want
Right.
to be the best wife. And as we're preparing to go into parenthood, how do I set myself up to do that just perfectly? When no one was putting those expectations on me. I laugh now because I can remember rushing home from work to make sure that like dinner's there and dinner is perfect. And he walks in with takeout from PF Chang's. Like, what? Like, no, this is not how it goes. This is not how the story's supposed to work ever. But that's just how connected I guess we were. If he ever felt like I was a little stressed out, he knew what to do because he knew me better than anyone else. So in the whole, I have to do everything perfect. We're approaching 1 year and we're really talking about becoming parents. And I said, well, our families don't live here, so we're going to have to move a little bit closer, or we're going to have to hire help. He was dead set against hiring help. So we decided to move, and we moved to Maryland, which is where we met. His family was there. My family wasn't far away. And we're on this journey. And I'm such a planner and I'm such a control freak and so type A that, we go see the doctor to talk about how do we prepare getting pregnant. I don't know too many people who do that, but that's exactly what I did because that's just who I was. And I'm trying to do all the right things with my diet and exercise and all those things. And we got pregnant the very first time we get pregnant. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited that I could possibly be pregnant that I take lunch, which I never did. I take lunch. I go to CVS and I can see it clear as day. I go to CVS. It was like late November, maybe early December, to get a pregnancy test to take it at work instead of waiting until I get home. Because I just had to know. I had to know. So first time we tried, we get pregnant. We're both over the moon. He was so excited. I was so excited. Like, we couldn't believe this was happening. But what he didn't know is I really couldn't believe this was happening because for so many years, I would tell myself that you can't possibly have it all. You're going to have to line things up a certain way in your career, to wait to get married. Then you're going to have to wait to have children until the opportunity is absolutely perfect and you're in the perfect situation. When in reality, that's not life. That's not how things work. And I believe that we take the joy out of living when we don't let things just naturally unfold.
So true.
Because I always said, and I shared with you, like, I'm a woman of faith. I'm a woman of faith who never trusted God or source or universe, however you refer to that higher being. I never allowed God to let things unfold in a greater way in my life because I just had to control
freak. Yeah. I'm familiar with the problem. First-hand knowledge.
Absolute control freak. So of course, I'm super excited. We're pregnant. We don't tell anyone because the reality of all the messaging you get, oh, you're almost 40. This is, your first pregnancy. Don't tell anyone in case something happens. But I remember saying to myself, nothing's going to happen, but I'm just not ready to share. And we go to that first doctor's appointment. I am brimming with joy. Like my heart is going a million miles an hour. And then it gets stopped when the doctor is doing the sonogram and says, oh, I don't think you have a viable pregnancy. And I literally could have like risen up from that table and sobbed. My first reaction was, what did he just say?
Yeah.
I was in shock. I was in shock because of what he said, but I was also in shock at how he handled it.
Yes,
and how he told
could have
me.
been nicer about it. Yes.
Yeah, I thought, like, this is the first time for us, and
yes,
this is the way that you
no
deliver
bedside
the
manner.
news.
Yep.
Zero. But I held it in.
Yes.
I did not let my husband see how I felt. I didn't let the doctor see how I felt. I don't even know what was being said around me. All I was thinking of was, you can't allow this to happen because any woman can get pregnant and have a child, Ayesha. So surely you can do this. You can't fail. You don't fail. That's all I kept telling myself. And
So you put
so
yourself under more stress.
more stress, more stress,
Big
right?
time. Yes.
More stress. And I didn't even share that with my husband. I didn't share that with my sister, like no one. I just acted like everything was fine. Um, and then it was December 31st, 2011. We rented a beautiful cabin in Western Maryland to celebrate New Year's, just the two of us. And all I was worried about is making this perfect because this is the last time we'll have a New Year's Eve before we're parents. That whole like everything has to
Right.
be perfect, and when we go to the doctors on Monday, everything's going to be perfect. And I've actually never shared this before. When we were there, we were in Deep Creek, Maryland, and it was just so picturesque because it had snowed, but we
Mhm.
didn't get snowed in. And we had a fireplace in our lodge. It was beautiful. I remember going to the bathroom and I was bleeding, and I
Mhm.
never said a word. I just thought, nope, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. It's going to be okay. And it wasn't. So to find out that, this isn't going to be a viable pregnancy, and I was so detached from feeling and just allowing myself to be human, I went back to work. Didn't say a word.
Oh my God.
I told my husband, I'm fine. I can go back to work. I'm okay. I'm good. I'll see you when I get home. And he was just like confused.
Of
And
course.
I drove back to work fine. And before I could go into my building, I stopped. And I was like, you got to pull it back together. You're going to go in here. You're going to act like nothing ever happened because I felt like I allowed that to happen in some way.
Mm.
And so the stress, like you said, I put more stress on
Yes,
myself.
that's right. Yeah.
I stressed myself out to the point that the pregnancy, like the miscarriage actively started to happen.
Mm.
So it was very traumatic, very painful. I had to be immediately hospitalized. Um, and coming out of that, even, I was still detached. I was still like, I can't believe I couldn't even allow it to happen the way that,
Oh
think it's
God,
supposed
girl.
to happen.
I mean, you're an
Yeah,
expert at beating up on yourself.
I am. I feel like I should have got my doctorate in control and low expectations
Oh
and
my
pressure.
God.
Like I really do. And just trying to go through that, I did start to feel because that was a life, but for me, it was more than just a life. It was a dream that was now like no longer. It wasn't going to happen. And as much as my husband was super supportive, um, I could see a change in him. And I could see like he was becoming despondent. Even though we were in it together, our conversation was all about, do you need anything? Or you like making me comfortable, making sure I was okay. But I could see he wasn't his normal self. And he finally said to me, I don't want to try again because I don't want to watch you go through that. And I don't
Oh,
want to experience this. And so
oh,
that was hard for me because
oh,
I was thinking I thought my only role in this marriage is to become a mother.
mother. Yes.
Is to become a mother. And so we get through that, we get pregnant again, and then he passes away unexpectedly.
What happened to him?
Um, it was pretty traumatic. So he died by suicide.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, how did you handle that? Oh, did you know he
That
was under so much pressure that
mm,
so
not when it happened, but in hindsight I did. In hindsight I could see the pressure, but going through it, I couldn't.
yes, I
If that
totally
makes
understand
sense.
that. It totally
Yeah.
makes sense.
Because
But that
a
was,
lot,
oh
a
my
lot
goodness.
had happened in those, like I would say probably that year of moving. We just had so many things that were thrown at us. And the entire time I'm just worried about, I gotta make sure that this is right, this is right, this is
Yes.
right. But I didn't see it. And it
How
was
long had you been married at this point?
a year and a half,
So much happened in a year and a half.
a year and a half. We've been married for a year and a half. And at that point, he had been my best friend my entire adult life. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
From 22 to I was getting ready to turn 39. So to deal with that and
Oh, sweetheart, I just can't even imagine.
just the uncertainty of you really don't know why. You'll never get
Yes,
answers.
that's
You'll
right.
never understand. And at the same time, I have this life.
That's right. That was a
How
fairy tale perfect life. How
how
could
is
this
this
happen?
how could this possibly happen? I don't understand. And I would say I was a very, very confident, very
Yes,
together, always had the right words to
right.
say, always knew how to handle situations. To say that I became a shell of myself is probably an understatement. It is an understatement. It was enough for me, at least at the beginning of that second pregnancy. I only ate because I had to. I couldn't sleep, but at least I could eat because I had a reason for it. And when you're going through something as traumatic as that type of loss, um, it's not only sudden, you're not prepared, you don't have answers, it doesn't
No.
make sense. And I didn't just lose my husband, I lost my best friend.
Yes.
For me, I lost everything.
Everything.
Um,
Yes.
you then I'm pretty much operating on adrenaline, just taking care of everything because I have to do this. Like this is the last way I can show my love is I have to take care of everything and everything
Yeah.
has to go in a
Again,
certain
be
way.
perfect.
Right. And I remember I was so out of it that hours after the funeral, I asked my mom to go back to the cemetery with me because I didn't know what else I should do. And so everyone is like at the repast and I'm already back. And I stood there and said, God, I don't understand why all of my hopes and dreams are now right here. I don't understand what you want me to do. I don't get it. And then within, I think it was a matter of a week, second pregnancy, not viable. And at that point, I was done. Like, okay, so I don't have a reason to wake up. I don't have a reason to eat. I don't have a reason to do anything. I don't know why I am still here. And I can remember people saying to me, you know, you got to go to church. You got to do this. And I said at one point, I said to one of his family members, um, I still believe in God because I'm angry with God right now. And the fact that I am acknowledging his presence in my life and that God is still here with me means that I do still believe, means that my relationship with him is it's still very much front and center for me. But I'm mad with God right now. So I'm dealing with this the best way that I could. You know, I lost 20 pounds. My doctor had the foresight to say, you cannot go back to work. There's no way that you'll be able to
Oh,
function.
yeah.
And I went into a depression probably is an understatement of what my life had become at that point because
Yes.
we were in the process of buying a home. So our lease was up because we were in the process of buying a home. So now I have to move. So I was like, wait a minute, in the course of 6 months, I've lost two babies, the love of my life. I'm not able to work. And now the last home that we shared. And it's only been 6 months because I was obsessed with time at that point. I was so obsessed with
Mm-hmm.
what was I doing 7 days ago? What was I doing 24 hours ago? And then losing the baby, like I still had the baby at this point in time. So by June, it was, oh my goodness, it's been 6 months and all of these things have happened. And that pressure of being perfect was released. The best thing that could have happened for me is my mom put me in therapy. That was the best thing that could
Yes.
have happened for me because it was the first time that I had verbalized all that had happened. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember being told how my husband passed away because I was so out of it. I don't remember. I just remember hearing he's gone and that was it. Like everything was a blur for me. And then I won't even say pick up the pieces, trying to find a reason to wake up every day
Yes.
was that's all I could do because I would literally stay awake all night.
Right.
I wouldn't sleep during the day. I wouldn't eat, but I would eat. I remember Ben and Jerry's blueberry vanilla graham ice cream. That's all I would eat, and I would drink water. And then sometimes I'd have like a piece of turkey bacon. That's all I could manage to do, because I just felt like you feel surrounded by
There's no
darkness. Like,
reason, yeah, for
yeah,
anything
I'm in this
anymore.
deep valley that I don't know how I got here so suddenly.
Yes.
And I don't know if I want to leave it because
Mm.
what's going on around me, it didn't make sense to me that things were still going on around me. I couldn't understand that a day would go by. Like in my rational mind, I didn't understand how, wait, this day just like 24 hours lapsed and I'm still here and nothing has changed.
Mm.
I thought it was I thought it was torture. Like I went from living this fairy tale to living a nightmare.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's probably the best way
The
to describe
transition
it.
is massive.
It was huge. It was huge.
Yes.
I felt like I had it all and I was on the precipice of, oh my goodness, now and I'm going to become a mother and this is going to
Yes.
be perfect, and to literally losing everything.
Everything.
But that's where I now know that's where my faulty thinking lies, because I had placed my value in my marriage, in becoming a mother,
Hmm.
in being successful at work. I placed my value and my identity on everything that was outside of me.
Hmm.
So I didn't know who I was anymore without those things to define me.
And that's where there was nothing to live for because who am I now?
Right. Right. I had no use. I am of no value.
Yes.
And it was to the point where I felt like I can't even do anything. Like people would send me books and I was like, I can't even slow my mind down enough to read. And I was a voracious reader. I wasn't a big TV watcher. That's all I did was watch Netflix in the dark. That's all I would do because that's all I could handle because I couldn't understand why am I still here. So this
Yes.
noise that's in the background is going to help
Yes.
to pass
Yes.
this time that doesn't
That's
seem to
right.
stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just didn't seem to stop.
How long were you
And
in that phase where,
that's what I was getting ready to say to you.
okay.
Believe it or not, I stayed there for a full year, a full year. And things would happen gradually. Like after a while, my doctor put me on medication so I could sleep
Right.
because that's
Yeah.
just not healthy. My body endured so much trauma. As women, when we go through something traumatic,
Yes.
all people, your body's going to show it.
Yes.
But for women, your GI system is going to be completely out of whack. I was having so many issues health wise that my insurance company was contacting me to find out if I had an accident because I was in the doctor so much. They're running so many different tests because nothing was quite working right. So for a full year, I stayed in that deep, dark place. I started eating a little bit. My mother-in-law made amazing banana pudding. And once she discovered I would eat it, she would make it for me all the time so that at least I was eating something. So when that year passed, I remember that day and I went to get gas and I looked up as I'm pumping my gas and I said, I cannot believe the sun is shining today. How dare the sun shine today? I felt like in the course of that year, if nothing had changed, why do I still have to go on? Nothing has changed. Like nothing that I've done or haven't done has made any difference. So why is the world still moving forward? And I believe in that moment, I moved from like a deep depression and despair to anger. But the great thing about that is just me moving from one emotional state to another allowed me to be a little open
Hmm.
to certain things coming into my life. And it was literally a few days later, a niece on my husband's side of the family, she her mom couldn't take care of her anymore. So she came to live with
How
my
old?
in-laws.
How old was she?
She was 9.
Okay.
And so I was not interested in any children at all. At that point, I was even limiting my contact with my nieces and nephews because it was just so hard for me
Yes.
to be with children when my hope for be. So what I told
Yeah.
myself is I will not be a mother now. Like that ship has sailed. I won't be a wife. That ship has sailed. And I was angry about it and I was hurt about it. So when she came, I remember saying, "Oh, she's so cute," and I wanted to go get her something to eat because I was going to get something for myself. And she was a little hesitant. And in that very moment, I was like, "Why? Well, why is she so hesitant? Let me see if she'll go with me, and I'll
Yeah.
treat her to something." So I did. And then the more that I would be in her presence, the more I don't know, like something opened up inside of me. It was very small
Right.
doses that I was just intrigued by this little girl. Um, and it wasn't until she's in school, she's doing homework, and I remember she's sitting at the dining room table having a hard time with her homework, and my mother-in-law says, "Oh, you're a principal. Aunt Aisha's a principal. I'm sure she can help you." And immediately I thought, why would I do that? Why would I do that? I'm not going to do that. I have nothing to offer anyone. My brain hasn't been in education for a year now. There's nothing I could possibly do to help this child. But I did because kind of the old me kicked in a little bit
Mhm.
where I could not see myself ever turning away a child that was in need.
Mm.
And and then slowly I started to think about something other than myself
Ah,
because I did help her.
yeah.
So I help her there. And then I find like I'm out shopping for groceries because at this point I'm back to kind of eating again. But I would go between the extremes of I don't want people to really notice me or I want to appear to be perfect. So I didn't really shop, but on this day I'm going to go look for clothes. But I went to the children's department and I thought, I'm sure she probably needs something. I'll pick up a few things for her. I went on a shopping spree for her. And in that moment, I didn't feel anything. It wasn't until she saw the clothes that I felt something. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And something just clicked inside of me that said, see, it's not so bad. You can still help someone. And I know I needed something greater than myself, a need greater than mine to pull me
To pull
out of
you
where
out.
I was.
Yes.
Because I couldn't see the forest and the tree. There was nothing I could really see because I
Yes.
was so focused on what did I do wrong? I
Yes.
had to do something wrong for all of this to happen.
That's right.
Um, but started, I would have glimmers of these realizations. I realized like you made all of these other things your life, but
Yeah.
you stopped living.
Hmm.
You lost yourself to the illusion of this life that
Perfection.
you wanted.
Yeah. Dream
Right.
life.
And it's just not realistic.
No, they're so actually, Aisha, thank you first of all for being so vulnerable and sharing the story. But you and I, we've had conversations, and it's what you're talking about is the exact question I asked: why me? Why this? And that was why I wrote the book, Why Me? Why do bad things happen to good people? Because we cannot rest easy in our minds because we keep churning it around, trying to figure out what mistake did I make? What am I paying
Right.
for? That's the question is, what am
Yes.
I paying for? And when you can't get an answer that makes sense,
Yes.
you're not getting the answer from God, you're not getting the answer from the world. It's just like everything shuts down and comes to a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that because I've been through that sort of a situation in different circumstances
Yeah. Yeah.
where my husband strangled me and I ran away from home. That was the exact, like, I went into this deep dark place, like nothing
Mm-hmm.
exists now. And I
Right.
and I stayed there until, and I ran away when I was pregnant. So I stayed there until my daughter was born. And
Wow.
now, because someone else needed me, I could start
Yeah.
functioning again.
Yeah.
And so I totally get what you're saying. So you started functioning again.
I
You
did. That was what I needed to start functioning again. But I also had to approach it differently. It's amazing how I can now say how God worked in my life because I was bartering. I was doing things for people. I was financially gifting people, thinking, okay, if I do this, God, will you end all of what I'm
all of
feeling? Because
this,
I
yes.
just can't. I can't feel this
Yeah,
anymore. If I show up for this person in this
yeah,
way, will that be enough? Will it
yes.
finally be enough? And of
I
course, it
get it.
wasn't.
Yes.
So when I needed to show up for someone else, when I needed to help this child, it kicked something in me. And I was like, okay, so you got to get your stuff together. But I knew enough to know that I needed help in doing that. I said, I don't want to be the person I was before this happened. I
Mm,
don't want to go back to that person because I'll be honest with you. I've learned a lot since on this journey about
yes,
myself.
yes.
And one of the things that I try to tell people, especially women, I feel like that's really my calling
Hmm.
is we create this fictitious story of who we are, and we have this narrative going in our heads about who we are and what we can and cannot be or can't have. And the thinking about myself that I used to have, I would never say those words to another person. I would never, criticize another person the way that I would criticize myself, as hard
Right.
as I was
Yeah.
for myself. And in doing those things, how did I expect my life to not show me exactly what I was thinking about myself? I didn't think that I could have the fairy tale. I had it for a little while. I didn't think that I could become a mom. I had it for a little while. There's so much power in what you believe about yourself and the words you speak over yourself. I used to joke and say to girlfriends, I'll probably never have a kid. I'll probably never be able to get pregnant. Why would you joke about something like
Yes.
that? I
Yes.
used to joke and say, oh, I'll probably never get married. Who could deal with me? I'm too different. Why would you say those things about
Yes.
yourself? Because those things have power. So at least I knew enough to know that I can't go back to doing it the way that I did before. So I just immersed myself in anything related to personal development. That is what I was doing. I was reading books. I was listening to podcasts because I knew that I needed to change the narrative about myself in my head. Like I cannot continue to beat up on myself and think that I can create a new life for myself at the same time. And that's really where I started. I had always been interested in the lives of others. Like I always loved nonfiction. I love biographies. I love hearing people's life stories. But I was more interested in how do you elevate? How do you actually make that shift and change things in your life? And I felt like I have to take this responsibility for myself because God has you here for a reason. Your work here is not done. Your life is not over. And you have to start understanding that your life is not attached to all these other things and people outside of you. It's noble for us as women to say, oh, my family is everything. My
Yes.
family comes first. My
That's
husband
right.
comes first. My children come first. If they come first, what do you have to give to them if you're not doing anything for yourself?
Yes, that's right. And
If
that's
you
when
don't
you,
value
yes,
yourself,
in the end, it all ends up being a great big sacrifice. And then you feel bad that you made all these sacrifices and nobody really cares about it. Whereas the truth of the matter is you didn't care for yourself. You should not expect
that's
other
it.
people to care when
That's
you didn't
it.
care yourself.
And we also we really do put our lives on hold.
Yes.
I recognize I had stopped living once this whirlwind relationship and romance started because now it was all I was thinking about is getting married and then it was having the child and then having the perfect house. Like like everything's going to be perfect when that happens, then nothing is going to be satisfying because the mile marker is always moving. I was
Moving.
always aiming for a moving target, always aiming for a moving target. And so once I got on the other side, not fully, like not 360, but I got to the side of, okay, I am here and my life has to be different. I started to look at, okay, Aisha, what is it that you really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want your life to look like? Because you can't put it into the hopes and dreams of these other things happening. You have to be able to say, no, this is who I am. This is what I now want. It doesn't mean it defines who I am, because I I am my own person. I have value just because I show up every day in this world.
Mm-hmm.
I am worthy just because of who I am, not because of
Yes.
what I do. That was a big shift for me. And I just immersed myself in how much can I learn about what I need to do to turn things around for me as a woman, as a person.
Isn't that a wonderful journey to begin? And I know that now you help other women with that journey, and that I know is what you're passionate about doing. So,
Yeah.
can
And
you share
it
a little bit
started
about,
there.
yeah,
It
tell us
started
about.
there because once I started to realize I need to invest in myself,
Yes.
right? I got to invest in myself. Then I started to say, you should really try to help other people, because this is not for the faint of heart. And I was wearing this like a badge of honor, that I had been widowed, and there's not
Mm-hmm.
even a name for when you lose a child, right? But
Yeah.
those things that happened to me, that's not a badge of honor. That's something that happened in your life. Now
Yes.
you have to pick up the pieces. So how can you help someone else? So I did. I started to study on how can I begin to help others, through coaching. And what was interesting is the parallel between my job and now what I'm investing in. So I'm learning about, how do you create that safe space for others? How do you help others to be able to figure out what their passion is, what that trajectory is supposed to look like? So as a leader in education, that's a bulk of your work. I didn't see it until I started paying more attention to the conversations I was having. I was
Mm.
like, all I'm doing is coaching at work. People, the misnomer when you're an educator is, oh, you deal with children all day. Once you leave the classroom, you deal with adults all day.
Yes, it's
That's
right.
all
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
So that's what I started to do. I started helping women in my church community. Then I started to pay attention to, okay, so what would exactly be something I could help others with? Because I felt like all I know is loss. That's not all you know. You've been able to actually pick yourself back up
Yes,
again. So
that's
then
right.
I started to pay attention to, what do my friends reach out to me with help for?
Yes.
Everyone's help. They want your help with, how do I jumpstart my career? How do I decide what I want to do on the side? Because that's just how my brain works. So I started to do more of those things. And that led me to saying, you know what? I think I want to take the leap, leave my career. And now this is what I'm going to do. I want to be able to help others, specifically women who feel like they're overwhelmed, they're burned out, the fear is just too much for them to move forward. How do I reignite that passion for them? And so I started slowly with speaking to groups of women about, how do you set goals? Why is it important for you to set goals? Speaking publicly about, how do you create a new story for yourself? Once you've had that realization of, this isn't the life that I want to live anymore. I do want better. What are the steps that you have to take? And I have looked at my own, like, the path that I was
Yeah,
on and all the
exactly.
things that I had to do. And what helped me is, because of being an educator, and because, my own pursuit of it was so important to me, is I was learning. I was formally learning. I was consuming every book I
Yes.
possibly could. I'm looking at certifications. I'm looking at masterminds on, how do you develop into a coach? How do you actually speak so that you're able to help and move people? So I'm investing, but I still felt like, wait, I'm sitting on it because I'm doing things
Mm-hmm.
here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing things on the side. I'm helping women who are living like transitionally. They're now want to enter the workplace, or they've never had a career. So I'm starting to help them in small groups. But this is calling me more than the work that I've been doing for the last 20 some years. And it was COVID that really pushed me. because when COVID hit, I was I had my toe in it a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was dabbling just a little bit. When COVID hit, schools weren't prepared for COVID.
Yes, that's
We
right.
just weren't. We weren't designed to ever do the work that we do that way. So I'm at home. I'm a single woman. I'm going to be working probably 12, 13-hour days, sitting at a laptop all day. Instead of being down about it, I was like, okay, I got to make the most out of this. So what can I possibly do? And I started to shift things for myself. I started to create new habits for myself so that I was taking better care of my body. I started to invest in my mental health in a way that I never had before. I'm a huge proponent for therapy. That is what helped me get through my grieving journey. It definitely did. It helped me to go back, because the therapy is going back and dealing with unresolved issues, as well as, how do you apply certain strategies today? And then I invested in coaching to help me move forward. But when COVID hit, I started to really put into practice those strategies that would help me. I used to tell myself I didn't have time to meditate. If you don't have 5 minutes to meditate in your day, you're doing something wrong with your life.
Yeah.
No one should be that busy.
Yeah.
I learned the power of, if I am not taking care of my mental well-being, I am of no use to anyone.
Yes.
And so the stress that I had in working with COVID, I was able to start finally putting those pieces together for myself. During COVID, I lost 25 pounds. I eliminated all of my debt. I built a healthy savings account. And mentally, I was stronger than I had ever been before. And the world is falling down around me, which just goes to show, when your why is strong enough, nothing can get in the way of that. So what, I can't go outside? And I lived in New York, which was the epicenter. I wasn't worried about that. I'm going to use this time that I have now. God paused this universe for a reason. I'm going to make the most out of this time. And it was coming out of COVID that I said, you know what? This is what you can now do. All that you've been working towards, all the investing in yourself, investing in learning how to help other women, now you can do it. And so I took the leap and I left my
Fantastic.
career. But when I left my career, what was funny is I remember when my husband passed, we had the same family doctor. And I remember my doctor saying to me when she told me I wasn't going back to work, and I said to her, well, what am I supposed to do? She said, Ayesha, I just need you to learn how to live again. We'll figure out work later. She said, but what I want you to do is I want you to accept the fact that you probably won't be able to go back into what you were doing before. And I said, well, that's all I know. All I know is how to be a principal. Like, I can't do anything else. She said, you can do other things, and you're going to have to find them, because you're going to find that your heart is going to be in a different place.
Yeah.
And that level of stress won't excite you anymore. So when I made that transition last year to say, yeah, there is more to life than what I have been doing, and I have a deeper calling and passion for serving women in this capacity, it all made sense.
It's falling into place for you.
Yeah.
So Ayesha, what is an affirmation or a quote that you find is really inspiring?
So the affirmation is actually paired with a Bible scripture.
Okay.
The affirmation is, things are always working out for me.
Yes.
And the Bible scripture is Romans 8:28. God causes all things to work together for good for those who serve him and who are called according to his purpose. And the reason that is so pivotal for me is I can remember sitting in the first row at my husband's funeral. And I remember one of the ministers saying, there's so much that we don't understand, but we have to remember that God has a purpose and that things are always going to be working out for us. And then he proceeded to read that scripture. I don't remember much about that day. I don't remember much about that service. I remembered that scripture and I held on to it. And that's what I say to myself even now when I have the ebbs and flows of, the transition to being an entrepreneur from the stability of working for a school system, is things are always working out for me. And that also it reinforces for me stay away from needing to control everything, because the more that you control,
Yes, yes.
you
Yeah,
limit yourself.
you
I've
do.
learned
You
you
do.
limit yourself. If you
Exactly.
truly believe that things are always working out
Yeah.
for you, you
And
don't
you
need
can
to know the next
relax.
25 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
you
that's
don't need to
affirmation
worry.
number 3 of
Yeah,
the Unlimited Workbook.
yeah.
Aisha, where can people find you if they want to connect with you and engage with you?
So on Facebook, I am at Dr. Ayesha McArthur, and it's AYESHA. And then on Instagram, I am at Ayesha McArthur.
And we'll have all of that information also in the show notes.
Yes.
Amazing. Aisha, thank you so much. That was so powerful. And what you
Thank
shared,
you.
I mean, everybody's situation and events are maybe a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
but the emotions that you shared, I think all of us have had to deal with those emotions at some point in time in our lives. And it
Yeah.
is so helpful to see how someone else went through something similar and came out the other end, creating something beautiful out of it. So thank you. And yes, things are always working out for us.
Always.
Even when we can't see any evidence of
Yep.
it, things are always working out for us. Aisha,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for being here with us today. I
Thank
really
you for
appreciate you.
having me. Thank you for having me.